Enter Louisiana Senator Bill Cassidy, who has some very basic ideas to address this, to keep Social Security going, because he's a fan of Social Security, likes it, but at the rate we're going, doesn't think we're all going to be having it. Senator, great to see you.
Thank you, Neil. Good to be with you.
One of the things that you propose is eventually raising the full retirement age, which you can get Social Security from 67 as it is now to 70. That is also the age at which a lot of people, even today, if they push it off until then, would get the most benefits. But how soon would you roll something like that in? Maybe explain your position on just the age thing.
That has not yet been definite because we don't have an agreement from everybody we need to have an agreement from.
Right.
But you can do what Reagan and O'Neill did, Tip O'Neill and Ronald Reagan, and not let it affect anybody for decades.
Right.
No one who is close to retirement would be able to do it. But Neil, let's just stop for a second. People start talking about that. Let's talk about some other things you could do. One thing you can do is actually make the program more fair. You can actually increase benefits for many people. And the way we do that, and this is the principal part of it, we create an investment fund separate from Social Security. We don't touch any Social Security dollars. An investment fund that we hold in escrow. And you allow the strength of the American economy to build a bridge to sustainability for the Social Security Trust Fund. We end up under our plan with enough money over time in order to increase benefits for millions of Americans. Indeed, under our plan, millions of Americans will see increased benefits when the law is passed, and no one will see a cut. And no one will see their age of eligibility increase if they are close to retirement at all.
So you have to define what is close to retirement. I get that. And you were referring to Ronald Reagan and Tip O'Neill, then Speaker of the House, to come up with a plan that later became the basic part of the Grace Commission that did extend Social Security shelf life for decades. But didn't President Bush, George W. Bush, look at doing just this? And, of course, it was the third rail, and he was just electrocuted.
A great question. What George W. wished to do was to create private accounts. Each individual would have his or her own account.
Right.
No,
younger people. It would be open to younger people. But go ahead.
And the fear of some was that the risk was borne by the beneficiary. Under our plan, the risk is borne by the fund, not by the beneficiary, and the beneficiary is guaranteed to get the benefits which have been promised to her or promised to him. She is at no risk whatsoever. The risk is borne by the fund, but over the time horizon we're talking about, that'll be a minimal risk.
Senator, there's another issue that keeps coming up, whether we limit the Social Security taxes to, you're really at around 100,000 and a half and there are a lot of people get paid a lot more than that, and that contribution into Social Security should be paid at a set rate, no matter how much you make. What do you think of that?
Yeah, so what we do, we don't raise the rates, period, end of story. We don't raise the rates. What we do is what we would do if we can get people to buy into it, if we can get people to choose to preserve, strengthen, and Social Security as opposed to let it go insolvent. If we can get people to choose, over 40 years, we gradually increase the percent of wage income to which the Social Security payroll tax applies, returning it to where it was in 1936 and where it was in 1983 when Reagan and O'Neill did their proposal.
But as you know, Senator, I mean, when we first got Social Security, 16 workers were paying in for every one person who was getting Social Security. Now, of course, it's almost dead even or close to it. How do you change that math, or can you?
Yeah, absolutely you can. We patterned after something that was done under George W. Bush, has been in effect for 30 years or so, if I have my math right. The National Railroad Retirement System, which had fewer workers and more retirees and was going insolvent. Sound familiar? They created a fund, kind of what we're talking about, They created a fund in which they began to invest separate from their, a fund, and they've got an 8.9% return every year. A system that was going insolvent is firmly in the black, paying the benefits that were promised. If we had done that with social back then, we wouldn't be having this conversation. Well, the best time to plant an oak tree is 50 years ago, and the second best time is today. So let's jump on it now to choose to preserve and strengthen the program and not do what, say, President Biden's doing, choosing to let it go insolvent. And when it goes insolvent, people get a 24% cut in their benefits.
Yeah, it's unsustainable, to your point. I admire the guts of you and others who are looking at this, because it's not crazy ideas. What you're trying to do is sustain something so that it doesn't go belly up. At the rate it's going to go belly up. Senator, I'd love to get the updates from you on this and how it's going, wooing some of your colleagues over. Bill Cassidy, the beautiful state of Louisiana.